Hello, my name is Christopher Beth, and I'm blessed to work with a great ministry called the Bucket Ministry. I'd like to tell you the story about how I got here, as I think it's a little untraditional of a pathway. So I never really started out to be involved in ministry, never started out to go on mission trips, certainly never started out to be a pastor or to lead a ministry. So in 2012, my daughter came home from school and she announced to my wife and I that she wanted to go on a mission trip, and this mission trip was to the Brazilian Amazon. Now, she had been on other mission trips before to South Texas, but this one a little bit farther out. So my wife and I quickly decided that someone is going to have to go with her, and we decided at that point that I would make that trip. Now, I want to tell you, I went on this trip only for one sole reason, and that was to be a dad. I went on this trip to make sure that my daughter came home from this trip. I really didn't go on this trip because I had any love or compassion for the Brazilian people, because I was just saved a few years before that and really didn't even fully understand my own relationship with Jesus Christ. So we flew into Manaus, Brazil, and we boarded this open air river boat, which was hot and it was sticky, and we went 18 hours into the Brazilian Amazon in probably the most uncomfortable environment I've ever been in. And it wasn't my expectation whatsoever. And after that period of time, we get to the first village where we're going to be working at, and I was assigned to this faith team. And I remember early on that I thought that was an ironic choice because I wasn't even really comfortable with my own faith just yet. I had Jesus Christ in my heart, but I didn't know what that really meant. So at that point, we started doing door-to-door visits, and I went across the river to a small hut that was partially flooded and walked in through this rickety board across the water and met this wonderful Brazilian family. And this little Brazilian woman looks at me, and I'm all hot and sweaty and nasty, and she looks at me and she said, "Are you thirsty?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." And I remember at that point, I thought she was going to go in her refrigerator and get me a bottle of water, but clearly that didn't exist. And what she did instead is she went into her kitchen and she got 2 cups. They were mismatched, they were cracked, and she walked out into this rickety little board outside. And I remember standing in the doorway and I was thinking, what is she doing? There's no refrigerator out there. But what she did is she took these 2 cups and she bent down and she collected 2 cups of water. She comes in the house and I'm thinking, oh no, this isn't really happening. She hands one to me, one to my interpreter. And I remember thinking about, at this point, what do I do? Because on one hand, if I drink this water, I'm going to spend the rest of my trip in the bathroom. If I don't, she's going to think I'm rude, and it's going to hurt her feelings. So I look over at my interpreter, and I see him out of the corner of my eye, and he's going like this. And at that point, I realize I can't drink this. So as I'm sitting there holding this glass of water, for the first time in my life, I hear the audible voice of God. Or maybe I should say, I listened for the first time in my life. And he said 2 words. He said, "Help them." Now, I'm not going to lie. I had no idea what that meant. It didn't come with any instructions. It didn't come with any notes. And I didn't know if it meant that I was supposed to give him a hug. Was I supposed to open my wallet and give him $20? Was I supposed to cook him dinner? I didn't know what that "help them" meant. So I left there that day with this burden of help them. I got home from that trip with my daughter with this burden of help them. Didn't really know what that meant. So I started researching water filtration. There's a lot of great filters out there. And I came upon this filter called a Sawyer 0.1 hollow fiber membrane filter. Tested this filter, made my family drink out of lake water. I realized that this was going to be a great fit for what we wanted to do in the Amazon. But I thought at that point, my only role with this was just bringing these filters down in a humanitarian mission, giving out clean water, making ourselves feel good, and clearly God had another plan. So in 2014, we went down with a small group of filters and set up in front of this village. And I think the most remarkable thing was, as I still didn't understand God's plan at that point. So we told the villagers about this filter. We told them how to care for it and all that. Then at the end of the presentation, this Brazilian man stands up and he said, "Can you tell me how you got to our village today?" And I had to think on that because I wasn't prepared to answer it. And I said, "Well, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I was called to be in your village today." And he said, "Well, who is this Jesus?" And that's when I quickly understood that this filter, while it's going to save lives physically, is merely just a tool to reach people in the name of Jesus Christ and to share the gospel with them and to do what we're called to do in Acts 1:8, and that's to be a witness to Him in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. And for me, the Brazilian Amazon was the ends of the earth. So I thank you for listening to this story, and I hope that you will share it with others, and you just understand that God works through ordinary, uneducated, and untrained people to do some just amazing things. Thank you so much.